And welcome back alongside Ryan Runners, Phil Vicera, Listen Up Maryland, presented by Dempsey's and Sportsland to recap tonight's game as Ryan just got over. It was televised. I wasn't able to watch it, but you were. So not to put the pressure on you, Ryan, but this was definitely not normal. I told you anything but normal. As the Oregon Ducks, a crusher. I mean, lost for words here. I had figured it would be close, but I didn't figure this was almost like the two emblems of each team should be switched to what I'm looking at, because usually it's 72-59 UConn. But this time, tonight, it concluded 72-59 Oregon Ducks. Oregon, Ryan, improves to 10-5. Connecticut, the rankings came out today. They moved to 9. But as we expect, I told you next week, man, this could really drop them down, maybe even, I don't know, close to maybe even in the 20 range. Just the way that I'm not too sure. And again, an unranked school, I think that I was starting to get my hopes up a little bit too much. Talk a little bit about what you saw. I don't even know where to start, because from the injuries to again, what you saw and what I didn't, as the Ducks improved to 10-5, and then the Connecticut Huskies dropped to 9-4. And just like that, it looks like trouble. And again, I expect Oregon to actually be ranked next week.
Yeah, I would expect Oregon to be ranked as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know where to start with this one either, Phil. This is a tough one. Really, really tough loss if you're a UConn fan. This is a heartbreaker, but it is January 17th, so UConn's gonna have a little bit of time to figure some stuff out before March Madness. But you got to remember, it came into this game with only 8 players. But they were without Kristen Williams today. She got placed in the health and safety protocols. They're without AZ Fudd. They're without Paige Becker still. And
And the list
UConn,
goes on and on and on, it seems like,
yeah,
huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like it. And bench points today, UConn had 2 total bench points, and those came with 25 seconds left in the whole entire game. But like you said, we expected this to be a close game, and it was at the start of the game. But Oregon just took control, and they never looked back. Oregon, they were ranked 10th in the nation at the start of the season. They lost to South Carolina, they lost to South Florida, and then they fell. They got defeated by 2 unranked opponents, so they fell outside of the top 25. But I would certainly expect them to be ranked after this. And then, UConn, like you said, moved into 9th place. And then with this loss, they'll probably move outside of the top 10 yet again this season. But, UConn, they came in on a 3-game winning streak after the 4 games got postponed. Those 3 games they won came against weak opponents. And, Oregon, like I said, they were ranked in the top 10 at the start of the season. And this is just the second game for Oregon this season that they played with their big 3, they like to call them: Tahina, Paopao, Sabali, and Rogers. And Tahina Paopao, let me just say, she is a playmaker. She got 22 points today. 4 of those were 3-pointers. UConn came out, they were up 10-0 at the start of the game. Oregon, they looked a little nervous. They were at home, but they looked a little nervous at the start of this one. But they settled in. They played good defense, and they started to make some threes. Paopao, she was a big part of that. She got the offense going. And man, once they started knocking down some shots, and UConn, they just couldn't put the ball in the basket. That's the most simple way to put it. They just could not score. UConn started out in a zone. They played zone for most of the game. And once Oregon figured out their zone, Oregon couldn't miss, and UConn couldn't put it in the basket.
I'm just looking now. It seems like a distant memory, but yeah, when it was not too long ago, when Paige Beckers dropped a career high 34 points in the season opener this year, and boy, oh boy, now I think it's going to really show. Again, it seems like it's a tidal wave in the ocean. Like we're going from one extreme to the other with this team all of a sudden. And it's just, I hate to go back on my word, but I was just, it was all bright talk about UConn. It really was, because the way they were playing there for a while. But now you're really starting to see that, for example, those 34 points could have been big in this ball game, if Beckers is in. And not only her, but like you mentioned, all the rest of the Huskies that are injured.
Yeah.
Ryan, I guess let's go over to box score, and then we will eventually go over. I saw some comments on the video yesterday, and I wanted to get your take. Or what was that? Saturday, I believe, not yesterday.
Yeah, Saturday, right?
Saturday. Okay. All right. Let's go over Connecticut. So, look, I mean, Caroline Ducharme, hey, she did what she usually does. She scored 22 in this game. You're right on that. 3 rebounds, 2 assists. So, Ducharme never slowed down. You can't complain about her performance. She gave it her best. But like you said, I mean, there was only one other UConn player that scored in double-digit figures, and that was Nelson Odota today with 17 points. I mean, it seems like that you're not going to get. I mean, Dorka, yes, she's been great off the bench, transfer from Ohio State. But again, rebound wise, 4 rebounds. She's played well in defense, but she's only contributing today. She only contributed 5 points. Elia Edwards, 4 points. Vina Westbrook, 8. Nika Mule, 3. So I don't know. It's definitely a mystery, right? I mean, but you go and then you look at Oregon on the other hand, and that's why. I mean, you mentioned Tahina Peo. She had 22 points, and she led the way for Oregon. But then you look at Sedona Prince. She had 14. And I don't know, Ryan. I don't want to. Let's see, because it looks like on the Oregon side, they only had 2 players as well to score in double digits under the points column. So, I mean, what was the big difference? So you just said that obviously Connecticut couldn't make their shots. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I mean that was part of it, and I mean it's almost like I said, once Oregon figured out their zone, they really just couldn't miss, and once the first quarter ended, and the second quarter started, Oregon went on about a 24 to 4 run. UConn didn't score for about 7 straight minutes. And really right then and there, you kind of knew what kind of night it was going to be for UConn. If you watch the game, they missed open layups, bad passes. They had 19 total turnovers. We talked about that earlier in the season when they lost a couple games. We talked about the turnovers, that they can't turn the ball over and they need to be more aggressive.
Yeah.
They started this game out more aggressive, and it looked like it was going to be a really close game. But after that, they just started making bad passes, turned the ball over, missed open shots. Oregon played them tough. They didn't let them go inside. And Olivia Nelson Odota, like you mentioned, she was the only second, or the two players UConn had scored over 10
Double
points today.
digit, yeah,
But
double digits, yeah.
yeah, double digits. But it's almost like UConn just couldn't find her inside, but she was open for most of the game.
Yeah.
But like I said, just bad passes, and just passes that were too late, too many giveaways for UConn. And that was really the story of this one. Bad passes, missed shots for UConn, couldn't knock down the shots from outside the arc. And that
Let
was the
me ask you
story in
this:
this
from
one.
what you've been, let me ask you this: from what you've been seeing, I know you and I aren't basketball, a basketball genius like Coach Gino. But let me ask you
Right.
this: from what you've seen so far, I know we haven't been able to watch. We wish we could watch every game. Has Gino been playing on defense when the opposing team has the ball? Has he been playing more zone defense or more man-to-man coverage? Just from what you've seen.
From what I've seen, I think it's been more zone, but I think it's
Okay.
been kind of equal. I think, but I think, like the announcers were saying today, since UConn, they're so short staffed with all these players getting injured, uh, you know, the way they play, they don't usually play the zone that often.
Yeah.
And with only 8 total players today, Coach Gino opted to go with the zone. And only 6 players played today for UConn, even though they had 8. Elia Edwards came off the bench, only scored 4 points. But I think today as well, Avina Westbrook, for me, a disappointing game. I would have expected a little bit more out of her coming in for Kristen Williams today since she was out. I expected Avina Westbrook to kind of pick up the pace for this team, and just kind of get them energized, get them going. Nika Mule, she brings the ball up the court most of the time, calls the plays out. But it just seemed like UConn didn't have much energy, and kind of all their energy came from when Olivia Nelson-Adota got some and ones inside the paint. But rather than that, it was kind of it seemed like a quiet game.
All right. Very well said. Let's go into the box score as far as the scoring from quarter to quarter. I know you said that. From the messages, I told you to try to keep me up to date, so I could at least come on and make an attempt to know what I'm talking about. Ryan, you outdo me every time, but so I appreciate that, man. You're making me proud, brother. But look, you told me that it started out 10-0. So 10-0, and that looked like UConn performance of what we've usually seen. Like you said, the past 20 years, it seems like when they jump out to a big lead and never look back. But like I imagined, I thought that this would be a close game. I was thinking I was kind of giving the advantage to Oregon there on Saturday when we came on, but I did not expect, I'm sure you or no one else did, I didn't expect this to happen. Again, if I could flip the team emblems on the scoreboard, that's what it basically looks like, because usually it's a 72-59 UConn victory, right? So just go over the box score. I mean, what happened there, I see the most points scored of any team came in the second quarter. If you break down quarter by quarter, Oregon scored 24 points, Ryan, in the second. So what happened? It looks like it was at the end of one, 15-14 Oregon, Connecticut right there, but then let the door open. Second and third quarter, Oregon scored 24 and 23 points. It's tough to come back if you can't respond every single possession when you have a team, drowning you like that.
Yeah, and like I said, when Oregon went on that scoring run, UConn scored a couple baskets, and then Oregon went on another 7-0 run. And before on this podcast, we talked about how basketball, like you said, we're not geniuses, but the way I look at
far from it
is basketball to me is a game of runs. And when a team starts making basket after basket and goes on these gigantic runs, it's really hard for the other team to stop them, especially when the home team is the one going on the run. Today in Oregon, they were home. This place was electric. Coming off in Oregon, like we said, we were texting each other. Oregon's coming off their win against 7th-ranked Arizona. Arizona dropped to number 10 in the rankings, so they had a lot more momentum, I think. Even though UConn won 3 straight. And that's, I knew UConn had a lot of momentum headed into this game. But my concern was those were against weak opponents that they play in the Big East. So I think that's kind of the disadvantage that UConn has sometimes, even though they're so talented. They have one of the best coaches of all time in Coach Gino. The conference that they play in, these teams, they're just not as talented as they are. And that's a big problem for this team in terms of not getting them ready to play these out of conference teams.
Well, and you wonder, I mean, we'll come on. We're going to try to actually not only the recaps, but I'm seeing now that, again, we want to appreciate all the support that we're receiving. But I'll be honest with you now that I've gotten some feedback and some people that want us to come out with some episodes and break down, what has Paige Becker's done so far. Well, she's already been a legend, and she's not in her second year only. But what kind of records has she broken? We'll dig deeper in the stat book. Maybe in the summertime during the off season to give us something to talk about. But yeah, that brings that brings back to the topic, not to get into it now, but you're right. I'm curious if we will ever see a turnaround, because just like Alabama in football, I'm curious if we will ever get to that point in our lives where the rich tradition at these certain kind of schools, at the certain kind of schools and at the college level as when it comes to sports. I'm curious if you start to see a flip. And what I mean is not only, okay, they had a down year, they lost one year, but then they come back and they're right back in the playoffs or they win the championship. Not like that, Ryan. What I'm saying is I'm curious to see if it ever happens, especially with UConn. Now, do I wanted to see it happen? No, I don't want to see it happen. I wish Connecticut the best, but I'm just as far as again, I'll bring up Alabama. Will we ever see a time where another school in the conference just flips the script? Although it'll probably take years to come, and all of a sudden you have UConn 10 plus years in a row on the outside looking in. So that's a good, and you bring up a good point because I'm like, well, I should bring that up to Ryan. I'm like, do we expect this like for the rest of our lives for these schools to keep on bringing in top players, or is there a tipping point?
Yeah, and I think you have to imagine that when, for Alabama, when Saban leaves, it might not be the same. And for
Mhm.
UConn's sake, when Coach Gino leaves, it probably won't be the same.
Oh, so
Uh,
you think it starts with that coach, the roots of the coaching?
Yeah, because I mean,
Okay,
in
all
college
right,
football and basketball, recruiting and scouting is so important, and bringing these players in from college is excuse me, bringing them in from high school is really where it all starts, and the transfers too. We talk about how Dorca's a transfer.
yeah,
Coach Gino usually gets a couple girls from other schools every single year that make a huge impact for this UConn team. So all of that just figures in to or adds up to the amount of talent that you have on your team. But it really does start with the coaches. And when you're a coach starting out, you have to build up your reputation. You have to win some games, win your conference, start making runs in March Madness, and then the players will eventually come and recognize that your school is bringing in talent that has men and women that they want to play with and play for. I think it all starts with there. But I mean, I think the reality is for UConn that they're gonna mostly always win their conference because it is so weak. But you eventually have to question if one of these teams in the Big East Conference for the women are eventually gonna somehow challenge UConn for that title in the Big East.
yeah. All right, let's go over some comments, Ryan, from the last ball game, last episode, that is, and then we will steer clear, as they call it, steering clear. Um, we will get on out of here. Let's go. I guess let's start out with again. This is all Ryan here. Two shot reg, two shot reg. Ryan on on our last episode. Two shot reg, and here's another one from Ryan, or to Ryan, I should say. All I assume everyone knows that nearly all of UConn games are posted on YouTube a few hours after they play. I live in the UK, so when I get up in the morning, next day they are ready for me to watch. Okay, well, all right. So that was talking about more or less when as it's okay. So two shot reg, we do appreciate that. I do appreciate. I'm going to take advantage of that, Ryan, and I'm going to start watching them if we can't. And then, but again, I don't know if that really helps us a lot because we like to bring you all out episodes right after the game is over.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate it getting love from the UK. I love the
Mm-hmm.
UK.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, but I mean, we appreciate everybody that tunes into this, and going over these UConn games and starting to watch them and follow them more. I have become a little bit of a fan because I mean, when we started covering this team a little bit last year, and then this season coming in, we're like, hey, we might as well just recap every single game and see what
Right.
happens, and the
Well,
amount of
and again,
support.
for let's back up there, and for people not to cut you off, but for people that don't realize, of course, yes, we do have ties. There's a reason why that we're covering this team on the show. People are like, "Wow, listen up, Maryland. Like, why are they going to UConn basketball?" Let's go ahead and say, let's go and repeat this over and over again every episode, so people know Sailor committed to UConn, but eventually, um, she had transferred. She had moved
Right.
on. She entered the transfer portal, right? And
Yeah.
next year, as I understand, She will be playing at, is it Arkansas?
Arkansas, right?
Arkansas alongside Michaela Daniels. So yeah, that's why, we figured, okay, hey, Sailor's from Middletown. Ryan Renner is from Middletown, right? So right down the street. And of course, our sponsor, Dempsey's. And that's why we started covering UConn basketball. We love it. I'm sure you love it as well. But yeah, it's just, unfortunately, Sailor not there anymore. I'm sure Sailor would do great though at Arkansas, alongside Daniels and company. But yeah, so but I still remember from day one. Remember we got the ESPN page, and I was looking back at that episode, and I'm like, man, it brings back good memories because it seems like you know the longer that I'm not gonna say forget about it, but that's a distant memory, and time flies. We know time flies, so you're going to look back 5-6 years from now. You're going to be like, wow. You're going to be like, I'm glad I talked about Paige Beckers. I'm glad that we had the very first episode about Paige. And yeah, that was definitely the smart thing to do, because now look, I mean, even though, no, she's not on the floor now, but we're expecting a big bang when it comes to WNBA action if she decides to play in the league.
Yeah, and obviously, I heard today the announcers say that the timetable for Paige's return expected to be somewhere mid-February. There's not an exact timetable yet, but just hoping and praying that Paige can return to the floor because, today, recapping today's game, especially if you watched it, getting Kristen Williams back. Hopefully, she recovers
Yeah.
from the COVID or any illness that she might have. Getting AZ Fudd back. Hopefully, she can return sometime in February as well. Getting Beckers back. Especially Fudd and Beckers, if they can return right before March Madness, hopefully maybe
Mhm.
get a couple games in before the tournament and get them up to speed. That would be massive for this team in order for them to make a March Madness run.
Man, you're getting my hopes up now, like the 1-2 punch, like a Dwayne Wade and LeBron James returning right before like April or May or around June, first couple weeks of June. Man, oh man, you're getting my hopes up now. And I'm over the cold weather already. So I mean, once we start to see the flowers start to bloom again outside, and then of course when you and I are starting to sneeze all the time, we have to get back on allergy medicine, right? I mean, look, that's a sign. It may be miserable with the allergies, but that's a sign, Ryan, that it's all big threes coming up in Stores, Connecticut, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, when we start
Let's hope.
getting start getting those allergies, we can just come inside and watch March Madness. That's the way to do it.
All right, and let's move on to the last comment, and that was from the last video, instant reaction against the dominating win over the Musketeers, 78-41, the last episode. Here's another one for Ryan. Jamie Centrella says the bench played and contributed yesterday, developing Payath, dialing in Amari, and having the seniors to be consistent can have them peak at the right time. All day travel for them on Sunday and then face Oregon Monday. Explanation mark. I had to say that. Yeah, she's right, Ryan. I'll let Ryan go. Yeah, it's what we've been saying all along. This team, Gino's doing very well playing the bench while he has the advantage or the opportunity to, because guess what? I have a feeling if you're going to make a deep run at it, you're going to need every single girl. It's not just your 5 starters or however many is on the floor when the game starts, right? You need every single girl on this bench, because it just seems like times are starting to get tougher and tougher, in Connecticut. If it's even, again, we're starting to see the unranked schools coming in hot, and here and there, not it's not starting to be a regular thing, but every once in a while, Ryan, UConn gets, not, they just don't lose by a couple. Sometimes they're starting to get demolished. So Jamie Centrella, and again, we understand not all the starters are on the floor that are supposed to be. But what do you think about Jamie Centrella? And by the way, I mean, she said all day travel for them, and then on Sunday they face Oregon. It seems like Jamie Centrella was hyped up about the Oregon matchup, but I'm sure she's not so much hype now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, this is going to be a tough one for UConn fans. I'm sure all of you are disappointed that are watching this episode after the game. And speaking on that comment, playing the bench, they didn't have much bench today,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Kristen Williams. That was a huge blow. I didn't expect when I heard that turn the game on, said she was out because of health and safety protocols. I didn't really expect that to affect UConn the way it did. And that really
That's
showed
another
by
huge
this
thing. I'm
loss.
glad you said that. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that is a huge loss. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even though it might not seem like it sometimes that she really makes a huge impact, this
Yeah.
loss today really
Mhm.
shows what kind of impact not just her, but everybody makes. And when
Yeah.
you only have six players playing the game,
Mhm.
like you just said, they just played Saturday, had to travel up to Oregon to play today.
Yeah.
But of course, Oregon they just played Saturday as well and beat Arizona, so it's a quick turnaround for them too. But obviously, they played four more players today than what Oregon did, so it's really tough when you only have six players. Of course, Gino had two other girls on the bench that he decided not to play today. But yeah, with Kristen Williams out, that was a huge blow for UConn today.
Yep. It went to show how big she is in every starter that they're missing. So Jamie Centrella, we appreciate you commenting on that last video. And make sure everybody subscribes, likes the videos, comment, keep the comments rolling. We do appreciate it. Ryan, I guess we'll look ahead to the next game for UConn. Although we're not looking forward to the although I tell you now, I mean, I was like, well, I'm pretty sure, Ryan, that UConn is going to fall in the rankings, like really drop. I don't know. I didn't think about. Well, they have actually two more games until the next new round of rankings come out in the country. So they face Seton Hall on January 21st and then January 23rd. I believe Seton Hall, that's this round two of this year. And then they have to face 2 days later, they have to face St. John's on January 23rd. Again, both unranked schools. Let's hope. I mean, let's hope that they can get at least a couple starters back that missed the game uh, tonight. Because if not, it looks like that they're in for a long road ahead, right? Because then guess what? January 27th, guess what? You have to travel and visit, you guessed it, number one, South Carolina.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
be
Ryan just say yeah.
yeah, I mean
Uh,
it doesn't look particularly good for
uh,
UConn. I mean they're gonna have two pretty easy games, two pretty easy conference games. You would certainly expect coming up. I would expect them
I'll
to
say it now. I mean, these are pretty much must wins. I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta beat Seton Hall and you gotta beat St. John's because again, look what you have coming January 27th, a meeting with South Carolina. So say what you want, Ryan, but I need I need UConn to win these next two.
Yeah, and I think they will. I mean, I think I think the reality is that they'll probably go undefeated in conference play in the Big East because, in my opinion, there's just not a team in the Big East that can compete with UConn. That's just the reality. They're just,
Even with Kristen Williams and company out.
yeah, yeah.
So
Even with
if you give me the roster that they had against Oregon today and the performance that they put 59 points, remember the performance, not only the players, but the performance, because it seems like now it's like, I don't want to be too negative, but it seems like now I'm not too sure if, as far as just the roster they have now, it's like UConn. I mean, go figure, they put up 78 Saturday, but then they come out and put 59 up. So you told me that they were missing a lot of shots. So with that performance against Oregon today and that roster, you still think that there's no problem in the conference?
I think there's no problem in the conference, right? But when you start getting out of conference, they have to play South Carolina. I mean, I don't mean to make UConn fans disappointed or make them more angry what they already
We're
are
here to try to be
after this
positive,
one.
right?
But that South Carolina game, I mean, they were fully healthy for when they played them in the Bahamas.
Mhm.
and they lost by about 15, if I can recall, in the
Yeah.
Bahamas. But now you have Beckers and Fudd out.
It was
Uh,
yeah, no, actually, Ryan, it was back in November, 73 to 57, South Carolina.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully they'll be able to have Kristen Williams back for the rematch there against South Carolina. But
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
Beckers and Fudd out, certainly for that game, I think that's going to be another long game for UConn. But these next two games coming up, maybe they can put a little momentum back together versus these weaker teams in their conference, and maybe they go into South Carolina with a lot of momentum. But that's what we thought here today, and you saw the result of this one.
The road to March Madness starts here on Listen Up Maryland, presented by Dempsey's and Sportsland. Again, it's Ryan Renner, Phil Vicera. Oregon Ducks improved to 10-5. Congratulations to the Ducks. And the UConn Huskies dropped to 9-4. And this has been a presentation again of Dempsey's and Sportsland. Ryan, a meeting with Seton Hall coming up January 21st. I'll see you next time.